They broke up, they moved on, or so we thought. For nearly a decade, Ashanti and Nelly lived separate lives. Careers evolved, scandals erupted, and hearts supposedly healed. But when they suddenly reappeared, hand in hand, smiling like no time had passed, fans rushed to celebrate a fairy tale reunion. But here's the twist. This isn't just a love story, it's a case study in emotional deja vu, where nostalgia meets unresolved trauma and where romance may be more about public redemption than personal growth. Because while the headlines scream they're back, the story behind their second chance raises a haunting question. Did Ashanti fall back in love with the man Nelly is today, or with the man she only thought he had become? They first locked eyes in 2003 at the Grammy Awards press conference. Young, famous, and full of potential, Ashanti and Nelly quietly started dating behind the scenes. And while fans speculated for years, the couple never made a public declaration. Their love story was private, maybe even sacred, until it wasn't. By 2013, the fairy tale faded. Rumors of cheating, growing emotional distance, and being on different pages tore them apart. No press conference, no big public fallout, just silence and the ache of unfinished business. But as any psychologist will tell you, that kind of silence can be deceptive. It's called attachment rupture. A break that feels clean on the surface but leaves emotional residue buried deep. The bond doesn't truly break, it just goes underground. And with time, memory plays its own tricks. Through a phenomenon called rosy retrospection, we start remembering the laughs instead of the fights, the closeness, not the cracks, the inside jokes, not the arguments that never got resolved. So when Nelly and Ashanti found themselves face to face again, older, more polished, and maybe more lonely, it wasn't just about chemistry. It was about curiosity, about what might still be there. But nostalgia, no matter how intoxicating, doesn't equal closure, and it definitely doesn't equal growth. Reuniting with an old flame might sound romantic until you start digging into what happened in the years you were apart. In 2017, while on tour in Washington, Nelly was accused by a 22-year-old college student named Monique Green of assaulting her on his tour bus, which was parked in a Walmart parking lot. The story was grim. She claimed he threw her off the bus after the encounter and tossed a $100 bill at her in the parking lot. At the time, Nelly was in a committed relationship with Chantel Jackson. And while he denied the assault allegations, he admitted publicly to cheating with no protection. His excuse? The woman got upset because she believed he was seeing one of his dancers, who was also on the bus. No criminal charges were filed after Monique chose not to cooperate further, but she later filed a civil suit. That lawsuit pulled back the curtain even more, introducing accusations from two anonymous women in England, both claiming Nelly had behaved inappropriately with them in 2016 and 2017. The case was eventually settled out of court. Terms were kept confidential, and Nelly's legal team claimed no money exchanged hands. But the bigger picture was clear. This wasn't a one-time incident. This was a pattern. Even if none of these allegations led to convictions, their repetition told a story, one that raises serious questions, not just about Nelly's actions, but about his mindset, public scandals, private betrayals, and a refusal to fully own the consequences. For Ashanti, stepping back into this man's life wasn't just about picking up where they left off. It was about entering a storm she didn't create and possibly pretending it never happened. Fast forward to February 2022, and things got weird. Nelly accidentally uploaded an explicit video of himself to his Instagram story. It was graphic, it was personal, and it went viral within minutes. He quickly deleted it and issued a public apology, claiming it was old footage never meant to be shared. But here's where it gets really unsettling. Just 6 days later, on Valentine's Day, Nelly and Ashanti were spotted together in Las Vegas on what insiders confirmed was their first official date. Romantic, maybe, but the timing raised eyebrows because this wasn't just a dinner date, it was a pivot from scandal to sweetness, from public embarrassment to public affection, almost like a strategic distraction. Psychologists have a name for this kind of behavior: crisis bonding. It's when someone feeling exposed or out of control rushes to lock down emotional connection, sometimes not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of loneliness, fear of losing control of the narrative. For Nelly, it may have been about damage control, but for Ashanti, the move was equally complex. Was she showing the world that she was unbothered, that she could rise above the noise and give love another shot? Or was she stepping into a relationship that had already shown her who it truly was, hoping somehow that this time would be different? After their Las Vegas rendezvous, things escalated quickly. Ashanti and Nelly began making public appearances together on red carpets, at concerts, even sharing the stage again like old times. It felt like a comeback tour for their relationship. And in May 2023, sources confirmed what fans suspected. They were officially back together. Then came the real shocker. In December 2023, they tied the knot in secret. No media circus, no wedding special, just a quiet ceremony and a baby on the way. By mid-2024, Ashanti gave birth to their son, Kareem Kincaid Haynes. Nelly later told Bootleg Kev that he decided to marry her because, quote, he didn't want her to be a baby mama. Protective, maybe. But here's the problem: marriage shouldn't be about optics. And it definitely shouldn't be about shielding someone from public labels. That's not love, that's PR. His reasoning wasn't about devotion or growth, it was about image. He said, if we're back like this must be what it's supposed to be. As if history alone was enough to build a future. But psychologists warn when people commit without emotional language, without referencing trust, love, or connection, it can point to avoidant attachment. That's when someone views vulnerability as a threat and keeps things surface level to stay safe. And this wasn't just about Nelly's fear of public judgment. It was also about rewriting his own history. Because decades ago, he fathered 2 children outside of marriage without blinking. But now suddenly marriage is a moral obligation. So the question isn't whether Nelly loves Ashanti, it's whether his idea of love is rooted in real connection or reputation management. Nelly says he married Ashanti to do the right thing. But if that were his guiding principle, why didn't it apply years ago? Long before Ashanti, Nelly had 2 children, his daughter Chanel and son Cornell, with a previous girlfriend. No wedding, no public vows, no sudden concern about the baby mama label back then. So what changed? Simple public image. Today, Nelly is 50, a seasoned celebrity with a battered reputation, multiple allegations, public scandals, and a trail of controversy behind him. Ashanti, on the other hand, is a global star with a polished, drama-free record and a fiercely loyal fan base. Marrying her doesn't just protect her image, it softens his. Psychologists call this selective principle syndrome. It's when people shift their moral compass to suit current circumstances, often unconsciously. In Nelly's case, marrying Ashanti wasn't just a personal decision, it was a strategic move, one that allowed him to rewrite his narrative and distance himself from the past without actually confronting it. Ashanti became more than just a wife. She became a shield. Her clean reputation gave him cover, and their love story suddenly turned into a redemption arc the public could root for. But here's the danger. When a relationship is driven by image rather than intimacy, it's standing on shaky ground. And when one partner's value is wrapped up in how they elevate the other, it stops being a partnership and starts being a performance. By May 2025, their relationship reached a new milestone. Peacock announced a reality series titled Nelly and Ashanti, We Belong Together. Cue the cameras, cue the chaos. At first glance, it seemed like the ultimate glow up. Two music icons letting fans into their love story, sharing laughs, milestones, and the behind the scenes of their newlywed life. But behind the smiles, something deeper and darker was playing out. Because here's the thing, reality TV doesn't just document relationships, it distorts them. Psychologists call it performative intimacy, when couples put their connection on public display not just to entertain, but to validate. The logic becomes, if everyone sees we're solid, maybe we really are. But the pressure to prove stability often cracks it. For couples with a rocky past, that spotlight can be lethal. Instead of healing in private, every disagreement becomes content, every tender moment becomes a scene, and the boundary between real affection and scripted chemistry starts to blur. In truth, the show wasn't just a platform for love, it was a test of whether their connection could survive public scrutiny and whether they were truly as healed as they claimed. But as the first episodes aired in June 2025, it became obvious the cracks weren't just showing, they were spreading. The fairy tale image didn't last long. As We Belong Together premiered, viewers quickly picked up on growing tension. One of the most talked about moments came when Nelly revealed he was seriously considering performing at Donald Trump's 2025 inauguration. The reaction awkward silence. Ashanti and her mother clearly disagreed. Her body language said it all, tight smiles, downcast eyes, quiet hesitation. But Nelly, he was locked in, focused on what the moment could mean for his career, not for his wife, not for their brand, and definitely not for the values she stood for. It wasn't a conversation, it was a declaration. Nelly made the decision himself. No real discussion, no empathy, just, I'm doing it. And Ashanti, she played the supportive wife on camera, even if everything in her posture screamed discomfort. Psychologically, this is a textbook case of emotional misalignment. When one partner charges ahead with their ambitions while the other swallows their voice to keep the peace, it's not compromise, it's emotional suppression. Over time, this kind of dynamic chips away at connection. When one person's needs and opinions consistently take a back seat, resentment starts to build. Quiet at first, then louder, and eventually it explodes. Nelly might have seen an opportunity to shine, but what the audience saw was something else entirely, a marriage where only one voice seemed to matter. If Nelly's attitude toward Ashanti raised eyebrows, his approach to fatherhood raised red flags. In one episode, he casually told Ashanti and millions of viewers that he had no plans to change diapers or take on early parenting duties. I ain't got nothing for him, he said, referring to their newborn son. Until he can talk, he's all yours. The moment was played for laughs. But beneath the bravado was something far more serious, emotional detachment. Some chalked it up to age. Nelly is 50 and his older children are already grown. Maybe he's tired, maybe he's just being honest, but psychologists see something deeper. Withdrawal during key emotional milestones often signals unresolved patterns. By distancing himself from the early stages of parenting, Nelly wasn't just avoiding diapers, he was avoiding intimacy, responsibility, and vulnerability. And that kind of absence carries weight. For Ashanti, it likely felt isolating. New mothers already face enormous pressure, physically, emotionally, and mentally. When their partner checks out, even in subtle ways, it reinforces the painful belief that the heavy lifting is hers alone. For their child, the consequences could be lasting. Early bonding isn't just cute, it's critical. It shapes emotional security, trust, and even brain development. And when a father delays that bond, it creates distance that's hard to repair. This wasn't just a funny moment on a reality show, it was a window into how Nelly sees partnership, parenting, and presence. And it begged a question no one on camera seemed ready to answer. If he can't show up when it matters most, what's holding this relationship together? Love or appearances? At first glance, Ashanti and Nelly's reunion looks like a storybook ending, two icons back in each other's arms, building a family and stepping into the spotlight together. But beneath the surface, the cracks are undeniable. This isn't just a story about love, it's a story about patterns, about the emotional wounds we ignore, the red flags we downplay, and the fantasies we cling to when reality feels too complicated. Nelly didn't just re enter Ashanti's life. He brought a decade's worth of baggage with him: scandals, unresolved trauma, avoidant behavior, and an obsession with image over intimacy. And Ashanti, for all her grace and strength, may have convinced herself that this time would be different. But nostalgia isn't healing, chemistry isn't growth, and a shared history doesn't guarantee a shared future. Psychologically, what we're watching isn't just a relationship, it's a rerun, a cycle playing out on a bigger stage with brighter lights and higher stakes. Love is not proven by how loudly you announce it to the world. It's proven in the quiet, uncomfortable moments when no one's watching, where accountability, empathy, and effort actually show up. Because at the end of the day, fairy tales fade. And if the work isn't done behind the scenes, even the most beautiful comeback story can still end in heartbreak.